11 Estimates Bill, adjourn debate on second reading and amendment proposed thereto.
The Honourable Cherry Brownlee.
Speaker, I rise to speak in support of the Appropriations 2010-11 Estimates Bill, and commonly known as the budget, and to oppose the amendment to that proposed by the Honourable Phil Goff. Mr. Speaker, the amendment is an utter joke, and it tells the public that the Labor Party have absolutely no sense of where public thinking is. It is an amendment that clearly shows a party stuck in what they believe to be the best style of governance during the 9 years during which they squandered opportunities to move this country forward. And I find it offensive, sir, that no one on that side of the House has had the temerity to stand up and say, we wrote that amendment prior to hearing the budget delivered, and we now realise that we were completely wrong and want to withdraw it. Mr. Speaker, I find it amazing that a budget that delivers a very, very low tax rate to 3/4 of all the workers in this country can be described as a budget that lacks vision and that raises taxes on working New Zealanders. That is quite untrue. And I would like the members across the other side of the House to tell us how they would respond to these simple facts that I'm about to offer to the House. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, take the average family, $76,000 income a year, 2 kids, a mortgage. They're receiving working for families. After the tax cuts and after the GST rise and with the working for families increase, that family is $25 a week better off. I'd like Labor members to go to that family and tell them that the budget is bad for them. Mr. Speaker, take the average earner, someone on $50,000 a year, renting a place to live, saving towards a first home. After the GST cuts, tax cuts I should say, and the GST rise, they are $16 a week better off. Mr. Speaker, why doesn't the Labor opposition go down to the people who are in this category and tell them that they are worse off? Mr. Speaker, take a retired couple receiving New Zealand super. They own their own home. They have no other income, which is the case for the vast majority of superannuitants in this country. So they rely entirely on their superannuation payments to get by. That family, after the tax cuts, after the GST rise, and after the increase to compensate for that on their super, are $11 a week better off. So why do the Labor opposition members continue to insist that they are not, when patently they are? Mr. Speaker, we will hear no doubt this afternoon Labor members saying that all of the value of the tax cuts and the adjustments made to all of those state benefits and superannuation will in fact leave people worse off.
Order. I'm sorry to interrupt the member, but there are very clearly defined rules about visual aids, and they're only to be used while a member is speaking and by that person, so they will be just put down, please. Thank you, Mr. Brownlee.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I was hoping that the cameras would catch a glimpse of those and then go and compare them to the genuine information contained in the budget documents and the context that they appear, and prove that David Cunliffe, poor fellow, is somewhat lacking in his ability to analyse these matters, and is also quite out of step with what New Zealanders are actually feeling about these matters. And while he yells across the House Treasury numbers, it may well be that he has used some numbers to bodgy up those particular graphs, but the reality is that he is not Treasury, despite the fact that he's got one of the biggest intellects in the world, and does not have the same capacity to in fact impart that information to New Zealanders. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm no doubt that Mr. Cunliffe will try and mount a case which says after this has all come into effect, so that's increases in state benefits, increases in working for families, increases in superannuation, and more income in the pockets of New Zealanders by virtue of tax cuts, that we're going to have inflation that will rip it all away from them. Well, there's a couple of points about that that is worth noting, Mr Speaker. Firstly, yes, there is the 1 quarter spike, but the underlying inflation figure is still running at around 3%. And I would like Mr Cunliffe to say why he wasn't worried about workers, about superannuitants, about beneficiaries, and about families who rely on working for family payments when he left office with an inflation rate of 5.1%. It seems it's another case of it's okay when Labor does it, it's not okay when anyone else does. The point in this case, though, is that no one else is doing it. The high inflation records lie entirely with his party. Mr Speaker, I might expect in a budget like this, where there was such large tax cuts, the largest in 25 years, that there may be a number of trade-offs that would see other spending start to fall. Mr Speaker, that is not the case. When one goes through this budget, you can see, sir, that there is increase in funding for housing, massive increase in funding for health services, some extra $512 million over the next 12 months, very large increases in the education portfolio, some extra $417 million just in the next 12 months. There is infrastructure, sir, with a total spend program over a 5-year period from now of some $7.5 billion. There is also, Mr Speaker, the huge commitment that the government has made to science and to innovation and technology, working with business to grow opportunities for this country with the very, very sizable $243 million support for business research. That's not some sort of pie-in-the-sky maybe figure that was being touted by the Labor Party for about 3 years prior to putting it in a budget but never funding it. It's real, it's available, and it will be taken up, and it will make a difference. Now, the member over there says it's less than half of what we promised. The problem is that having promised it, they never delivered it. Never delivered it. 9 years they had, but never delivered it. This has taken just 18 months, and here it is on the table, available, it's real, and it's for those businesses to work with. Mr Speaker, another feature of the budget is the government's ongoing commitment to taking out of the public sector spending that is of pretty low value. And there has been a huge effort made across the public sector to remove that lower priority spending, about $1.8 billion. Now, this quantifying that, Mr Speaker, that's about 1,800 Saturday night lotto prizes. A huge amount of money formerly spent on what can be only described as low priority spending. Mr Speaker, all budgets have in them particular features. And normally, sir, they reach out to only a small sector of the community. This budget is one that has reached out across the board. And one of the most impressive things about this budget is the way in which the business community has embraced it. And that will mean more investment. It will mean more jobs. And so the significant number of additional jobs that are calculated, 170,000 extra jobs predicted in this budget, will come to pass. When it comes to a fairer tax system, some of the write-offs that were available to people who own second properties or own commercial properties have gone because there was no loss in value on a usual annual basis that they were able to claim. And, sir, it's been embraced by that sector. Newspaper reports today that landlords throughout New Zealand saying this is a good budget and will not have an adverse effect on the rental housing market. Mr Speaker, this is a budget that can be described as delivering on National's promise to reduce taxation on New Zealanders, to ensure that there is genuine reward for the work that's done. It does set the scene for incomes, real incomes in the pocket to grow over a number of years. And Mr Speaker, I think the Minister for Finance the Honourable Bill English should be congratulated for this budget. I hope